Imagine yourself as a little kid, stressed out between the horrors of avoiding the notorious school bully, a soccer practice you really don't want to go to, and a teacher who doesn't give you the grade that you deserve in social studies. Who would you look up to for support? Almost all of us would look to our parents. They lead us, guide us, and help us to get through hard times. They have the ability to conference with the principal, make us realize the positives of a practice, and help us to learn where Delaware is on a map. The daily chaos of life of a young child can be solved by looking to a leader who has radical ideas and the power to control many things. The principles that control who we give our support to as children also reflects what all people do in the real world. Times of chaos allow us to follow leaders with extreme ideas and plans to change the world. A historical example of chaos in which common, everyday people looked to extreme ideas was in the 1910s, in the Russian Revolution. Peasants grew tired of government corruption, a terrible economy, and having no say in government. These people looked to Vladimir Lenin, the leader of the Communist Party, to change Russia for the good. In Lenin's speech, What is Soviet Power?, Lenin explains how his new ideas will give the common person power for the first time in world history. What is Soviet power? What is the essence of this new power, which people in most countries still will not, or cannot, understand? The nature of this power, which is attracting larger and larger numbers of workers in every country, is the following. In the past, the country was, in one way or another, governed by the rich, or by the capitalists, but now, for the first time, the country is being governed by the classes, and moreover by the masses of those classes, which capitalism formerly oppressed. Even in the most democratic and freest republics, as long as capital rules and the land remains private property, the government will always be in the hands of a small minority, 9/10 of which consists of capitalists, or rich men. In this country, in Russia, for the first time in world history, the government of the country is so organized that only the workers and the working peasants, to the exclusion of the exploiters, constitute those mass organizations known as Soviets, and these Soviets wield all state power. Lenin used chaos and civil war in Russia to introduce new ideas to people. Lots of these ideas, such as no private property, economic equality, and a new type of government, had never been used or tested before, yet people were still willing to try them due to their poor situation. Lenin persuaded these people extremely, and his country was able to change the world. The Soviet Union would directly affect world affairs for 75 years, and still has lasting impacts on our current world. Another example of chaos giving way to leadership is in the U.S. during the 1930s. The United States was suffering through the Great Depression. The standard of living was low. Many people were unemployed. During the 1932 election, the American public wanted change. Franklin Delano Roosevelt came into the election with a plan and some new ideas, which inspired Americans to vote for him. Once elected, Roosevelt created many programs to help the average person and change the country. One of Roosevelt's new ideas was the fireside chat. In a fireside chat, Roosevelt would speak to the American public through radios, informing them of what the federal government was trying to accomplish. This was the first time that radios had been used for a president to talk to the public. In his first fireside chat, Roosevelt explained to the Americans how the banking industry worked.
My friends, I want to talk for a few minutes with the people of the United States about banking. To talk with the comparatively few who understand the mechanics of banking, but more particularly with the overwhelming majority of you who use banks for the making of deposits and the drawing of checks. I want to tell you what has been done in the last few days and why it was done and what the next steps are going to be. I recognize that for many proclamations from state capitals and from Washington, the legislation, the Treasury regulations, and so forth, couched for the most part in banking and legal terms, ought to be explained for the benefit of the average citizen.
In this fireside chat, Roosevelt helps the common person to understand how banking works and how they can contribute to help improve the economy. The new idea of direct communication helped people to feel more connected to the government, which caused them to like Roosevelt. His new and radical ideas to talk straight to the public was just one of the many things Roosevelt did during his presidency. He also made several government committees to help employ Americans, and he created the Social Security Administration. These agencies and ideas are still used in our country today, showing how radical leaders can come up with world-changing ideas. There are many cases in which we are tempted to support leaders with crazy ideas. During times of chaos, these leaders seize the opportunity and try to make extreme changes to society and the world. Radical leaders push the limits of what normally goes on. Sometimes their ideas turn out to be good and help people, and other times they fail and send people into more chaotic times. When we support a radical leader, we need to be sure that we are not just following them because their ideas sound good in theory, but will actually work in real life.